Hello, Blazers. Welcome to UAB Green and Told. Through this podcast, we share stories that matter, stories that bring the UAB community together. Welcome to episode 175 of UAB Green and Told, originally released Monday, May 4th, 2026. Want to catch up on past episodes of UAB's most listened to podcast? Visit alumni.uab.edu/greenandtold or find us on Spotify and the Apple Podcast app. And while you're there, leave a written review so more Blazers can discover us. I'm Greg Berry, a UAB alum and Director of Communications in the Office of Alumni Affairs. There's a certain shimmer some people carry before they ever step into the spotlight. For today's guest, that spark began in small-town Alabama, where confidence didn't show up as early as curiosity. Even as a kid, the future Miss Alabama felt drawn toward big stages she wasn't yet brave enough to face. But every journey has a first step, even when your knees are knocking. And hers arrived on a flyer tucked into a backpack.
I said, I want to do it. My mom was like, if you cry, we're never doing another one ever again. She was like, we're doing it to have fun.
Sometimes the moments that scare us most end up shaping us the most. That's the case for Emma. Her first big girl competition didn't bring a crown, but it brought something so much more.
I remember leaving that night thinking, I want to do this again. Even like I didn't place, I didn't win anything, but I feel so much more confident in myself and my abilities.
Plus, she'll take us inside a moment few ever experience, standing under the lights, feeling the weight and wonder of a final walk she knew she'd never forget.
I'm never doing this ever again in my life. Like, this is it. This is the last time I get to enjoy competing.
There's a certain Southern charm to growing up in a place where people don't just know your name, they know your stories, your people, and every quiet hesitation you tried to tuck away. In a town like Leeds, Alabama, not much stays a secret, not even the kind of nerves that make a little girl keep her small voice. So while pageants may glitter with confidence, Emma Terry's first steps toward that world weren't carried by glamour. They were slow, careful, and threaded with more doubt than dream. The lights didn't call her, they intimidated her.
So she was very shy. She was a very shy little girl. And I was very hesitant to put myself out there. I wasn't necessarily the first person to raise my hand in class. I didn't have a ton of confidence in myself. And so my mom started encouraging me by putting me in dance classes. And then we started entering little fundraiser pageants when I was a tiny little girl. And it was just school pageants. I wasn't doing a different pageant every single weekend per se. And it was just put on a pretty gown, throw on some lipstick, and walk, because you have to break out of this shell. And that was kind of the idea with just entering like the Queen of Hearts pageant at my school. And that was me. I was very shy, didn't have a ton of confidence, and I always knew that I wanted to be Miss Alabama. For some reason, I grew up watching the Miss America pageant on TV, and I always thought, I want to be like them. But I get the shakes whenever I have to stand up in front of my class and make a presentation. So I got to do something about it now if that's what I want to do. So that's a little bit about what I was like as a little kid. So when I say this program changed who I am, that is definitely the truth.
Do you remember that first pageant?
Oh, yeah, vividly. I do. I was in the second grade, and they passed out the Miss Queen of Hearts paperwork in school, and I brought it home, and I said, I want to do it. And my mom was like, if you cry, we're never doing another one ever again. She was like, we're doing it to have fun. We're not doing it to win. We're doing it to have a good time, and you really need to break your shell. And so I brought her the paperwork. I said, I want to do it. And she said, great. We found this tiny little pale pink silk dress. It wasn't anything fancy. And I went out there and did it. And my mom put my hair in these little rod curlers. And I have never seen my hair curled like that ever again. That was truly a once in a lifetime hairdo. I was really nervous to do it. But I also thought, I don't know why I'm nervous. I'm just walking. And it was a lot of fun. So that was kind of the start of everything.
So when you were 7-ish, did you place? Did you come onto this? No.
No. Gosh, no. No, I didn't win any of those little beauty walk fundraiser school pageants until I was probably 12.
No kidding.
Oh, seriously. Yeah, no. This was not something that came naturally to me because I really did struggle with confidence. I struggled with confidence. I struggled with just feeling sure of myself with things. And so it took a lot of time and it took a lot of practice to even get comfortable in walking in a pair of heels.
It took about 5 years to really get that first win. What was it like? What was that feeling like when you stood up there with?
Well, I will tell you that the first time I won any sort, really anything, especially any pageant, it was the Miss Creek Bank Festival at Leeds High School. That was the little girl pageant that I won. And I felt so cool. I felt so cool when they said Miss Creek Bank is Emma Terry. And I was like, oh, wow, maybe I am getting the hang of this. And then it was a few years later. So I was probably, 5th grade, 12 years old. And then a few years later had someone approach us and say, hey, you really should get involved in the Miss Alabama's teen program. And I thought, oh, Lord, I've only ever walked in a pageant dress. I don't know what to do with this, but I know my goal is to compete and maybe become Miss Alabama. So why not start now? And the only experience that I had prior to that was just fundraiser pageants in my community. Had no interview experience. I really didn't start studying dance seriously until I was 12. That's when I really knew that I wanted to compete. That's when I got in a ballet class about 4 days a week and had to play some serious catch up because all these other girls in my class had danced since they were 3 and I couldn't even do a plie. So it was quite the journey, truly.
When you got into the Miss America pageantry organization, what is the process to go about it?
My mom and I, we were able to work together when I was younger, when I was 14, and said, well, who do we reach out to? So we reached out to a couple of friends who we knew were in the organization, started pulling all the resources together and figuring out what we needed. But here's what it looks like. This is the most realistic thing that I can explain. You go to the Miss Alabama website, you pick a prelim that you want to do. The first prelim that I did was the Miss Center Points Outstanding Teen preliminary. And then you open up the paperwork packet, and it's like 30 pages of paperwork. And then you get really overwhelmed. You close your computer and you walk away. That's what happens the first time because it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know what all was involved in just simply entering this. But then we took it one step at a time. So you need a resume, you need a community service initiative, you need an essay about that community service initiative and the things that you've done to volunteer in your community. You have to go through all of this verification process to show that you live in the state that you're competing in. Then you have to sign a contract. Then you have to do all of these things. And then you have to actually start getting ready to compete. So then you have to do mock interviews. You have to keep yourself educated on current events and what's happening because they can ask you anything under the sun. And in the on-stage competition, at that time, we were doing a fitness routine as teens. So they sent you a recording of a fitness routine. It was about a 30-second routine where you did sit-ups, jumping jacks, push-up. And so you had to know that by the time you got there. Then you had to have your wardrobe ready and your talent ready. So there's a lot that goes into not just getting ready for, like, as Miss Alabama competing at Miss America, but getting ready for a local competition. And you just have to be prepared to handle anything that comes your way. But it's so worth it in the end because I'll tell you, I didn't get a thing at that first preliminary. 14-year-old Emma thought she nailed it. I felt so proud of myself. And, in hindsight, I remember thinking, yes, I nailed that on stage question. I did it. No, I did not. I don't even know what I said. I made sentences. I got words out of my mouth, and that's all that matters. It was an eye-opening and humbling experience, but I remember leaving that night thinking, I want to do this again. Even like I didn't place, I didn't win anything, but I feel so much more confident in myself and my abilities. It really was a moment where I was like, okay, I think I can do this. And that was life-changing for me.
Is there a point during the pageantry, all of the events that you're taking part of and competing, that you had a breakthrough and you started winning, placing, high honors consistently?
It wasn't even about the winning, if that makes sense. It wasn't about placing for me. It was about consistency and improvement in my performance. So my first year that I competed in the Miss Alabama's teen program, I competed in 4 preliminaries. The first 3, I didn't win anything. I didn't place nothing. But every time I improved something. And then at the very last prelim that I decided to compete in for that season, I won the talent award and I won the title because I went in that day and I thought, you know what? The pressure's off. I'm going to go in here and do the best that I can possibly do, but I'm going to go in here and just be myself. And that sounds like so cliche because that's something that so many people say, just go in and be yourself. But when it finally clicks in your head that you don't have to put on this professional facade and you really can just go in there and show your personality, share your thoughts, your opinions, your passions with those judges, that's when it clicks for you. And that's when it clicked for me. And then I competed at Miss Alabama's Outstanding Teen. I didn't win a single thing that year at the state competition. I was darn glad to be there. So I competed. I didn't have any hiccups on stage. I was happy. But I knew that the next year I wanted to improve more and I wanted to place in the top 15. That was the goal I set for myself. And let me tell you, I worked my tail off. It wasn't necessarily frustrating. I just knew that it was going to be a timing thing for me. All that practice that I got competing in those prelims that season really was instrumental. And then I won Miss Covered Bridges Outstanding Teen. Now it's just Miss Alabama's Teen. It used to be Miss Alabama's Outstanding Teen. Then I was placed in a community that had so many community events and gave me so many opportunities to interact with people. So really and truly, that was so perfectly timed. I was meant to be in that community, work in that community, learn from that community. And that was a really pivotal time for me as well, because then I went back to Miss Alabama's Teen that March. After that first onstage question will always stick with me. All I remember is the blaring lights. And then I won an evening gown onstage question preliminary at Miss Alabama's Teen, and that was incredibly gratifying. And then I was first runner-up. I was so happy. People were like, oh, wow, we have never seen a first runner-up this happy. I was like, I am in the top 5. I can't believe it. And then the next preliminary season rolls around. I'm working my tail off because I wanted to be my hometown title holder. I wanted to be Miss Leeds Area's Outstanding Teen. I win that preliminary. Of course, I wanted to be Miss Alabama's Outstanding Teen, but I knew just because I had placed first runner-up the year before, that meant nothing. A new set of judges, a new set of circumstances changes everything. So I had to bring it times 10. And I won a talent preliminary award, an evening gown on stage question preliminary award, and then I was first runner-up again. I was so grateful to have that consistency and so grateful to, again, place in the top 5. But then, of course, I think as anyone at 17 years old who's learning how to face rejection would say to themselves, well, what was wrong with me? You know, nothing against anyone else. And I was so proud of the girl who won Miss Alabama's Teen. Her name's Marcelle LeBlanc. She's amazing. She's an actress. She lives in LA. She's incredible. But I did have to learn how to handle that moment of, well, this isn't exactly what I wanted or planned for myself. In my head, I was like, I really, really want this. I have a plan for what I want to do. But it was okay because then, bam, the next week, pandemic hits. I am finishing up my junior year in high school. I'm my hometown title holder for a second year and go through this really, life-changing period and this historical period in time. And then give up my hometown title, decide last minute to enter a Miss Alabama preliminary. I'm going to go have fun. I'm going to learn. And then I'll know what to do for next time. I won Miss Shelby County. First Miss Prelim out of the gate. And I was like, oh gosh, I lost it on that stage. I was so excited. I'm just bawling my eyes out because I'm going to Miss Alabama. 3 weeks later, Marcelle competes at Miss America's Teen, wins Miss America's Teen. So then I give up the Miss Shelby County title to take the Miss Alabama's Outstanding Teen title. And I was the first freshman in college, because I was already at UAB. I was the first freshman in college to serve as Miss Alabama's teen. I'm telling you all of this just to share how important timing is, because for me to be Miss Alabama's teen at that time, it was perfectly timed. Amazing year. I loved every second of it. And it was a transformative year as well, because it was more opportunities for me to be in front of an audience, to be put in these positions where you have to learn how to be flexible and kind of just go with the flow with everything. Not only was I learning how to juggle the changes with becoming a college student and learning those responsibilities, but I was also a state title holder. So on the weekends, I was traveling the state of Alabama, and I was emceeing preliminaries. I was going to fundraisers. I had appearances. I had a job to do here, and then I had a job to do here as a college student. So I had to balance both of those things. And then the next prelim season rolls around, and I win Miss UAB. I was very, very excited. I knew I had a plan for what I wanted to do as my school title holder, and just knew how special it is to be a university title holder. And UAB is just such a special place in and of itself, and to be able to represent my university, not just on the Miss Alabama stage, but year-round, was really incredible, and I loved every second being Miss UAB. I went on to compete at Miss Alabama. I thought, you know what? If I make top 10, that'd be great. I will be so happy if I made top 10. I was first runner-up. Then I go on to compete a second year, and I was a preliminary evening gown award winner my first year and my second year. I was first runner-up again. And then the girl who won Miss America. Abby Stockard won Miss America. So both times, the second time I was first runner-up, the winner went on to win the national title. It's the craziest story. And then due to timing between January and June, the Miss Alabama organization just said, it makes no sense to have another Miss Alabama. Abby's stationed in Birmingham. She can cover appearances. We have other title holders who can cover appearances. So then that opened the door for me to hold my local title of Miss Hoover and to compete a third time at Miss Alabama. And I was a preliminary talent winner. I was a preliminary evening gown winner. I won Miss Alabama, and I was second runner-up for community service. And it was really incredible. So you asked kind of when did I start having consistency and when did I start winning and placing? That's kind of the story. That was my journey to Miss Alabama.
So I want to rewind, because you hit on UAB and you were Miss UAB.
Sure was.
Why UAB? Well, why did you decide to attend UAB?
So there were a couple of different factors in deciding on UAB. I knew that I needed to be close to my family because my grandfather was struggling with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which is my community service initiative. So I needed to be able to commute. I needed to be close to home because I was serving as a caregiver for my grandfather. I couldn't leave my family with that, knowing that that was something that we were dealing with and knowing that he was getting worse at that time. And then I always knew that UAB was at the top of my list. My mom graduated from UAB. I'd heard so many incredible things. Always loved the campus. Always loved that it was settled right in the heart of Birmingham and that it was integrated into the city. It wasn't just a college town. There were other opportunities that were presented to UAB students because UAB is situated right in the heart of downtown Birmingham. And then I knew it was a medical hub of the world. I mean, UAB is internationally renowned when it comes to medicine and other things. So UAB had been at the top of my list since freshman year of high school. And I knew that it would come down to a couple of factors: scholarships, proximity, and just what opportunities I could have. And so I ended up deciding that I wanted to study accounting. And so when I toured the Collat School of Business, I vividly remember my mom and we were like, let's just go look at it. Let's just go see before we make a decision. I didn't even take a full tour of UAB. I took a tour of the Collat School of Business and I said, this is where I'm going to school. I stepped in the doors, walked through them and said, oh yeah, yep, this is it. This is where I'm going to school. Best decision I ever made because Collat is It's a relatively new building. It was state-of-the-art technology, incredible programs, incredible people, amazing opportunities. And I was like, well, why I would be a fool not to go to school here.
Having finished runner-up twice as a teen, twice as Miss Alabama,
Yeah.
what was the feeling like when you finally heard your name called? Because this has been a goal since you were knee-high.
What we do at Miss Alabama is a little different than how they do it at Miss America. So at Miss America, they say, and your new Miss America is so-and-so. And they announce the new Miss America. Well, at Miss Alabama, what they do is they announce the first runner-up. So I was like, please don't call my name. Please don't call my name. And they didn't call my name. I just had an out-of-body experience. I lost it. It was an incredible feeling. It really was, to finally achieve that goal and know that I was going to be Miss Alabama for the next year and be able to accomplish my goals, travel the state, do all of these things that I'd always wanted to do. And it was just an amazing feeling. And one of my favorite pictures, I told my mom that night, I said, I want you to wear your green blazer. She has like a lime green blazer. And I said, I need you to wear that for finals night. And she said, all right, you get whatever you want. So I knew what I was doing. I thought, if I need to spot her, I'll be able to spot her. And then I was crowned. And of course, tears pouring. Just, I was absolutely sobbing. I was so happy. And then, they crown you, and then they say, well, take your first walk as Miss Alabama. And so I start walking, and then my mom's running down the aisle of the Wright Center at Stanford University, and she comes to the edge of the stage, and I squat down, and AL.com caught a picture of us, and she's like wiping my tears. And then in that moment, here's what she was saying to me. She's like, I'm so proud of you. And then the crying gets worse because I see my mama, and then she's like, oh God, I'm making it worse. Go, I'll see you later. Go. And that's what she said. So it was really, I don't even have the words to express the happiness and excitement that I felt in that moment.
So you were allowed to cry then, but you weren't allowed to cry during that first one.
No, because if you don't win it and you cry, then you haven't learned the point. That's not the point of this. The point is to have a good time. You can cry tears of joy and happiness, but we're not crying because we don't win it,
You then move on to one of the biggest stages with a Miss America pageant. That had been a goal since day one. What was it like when you arrived and then that moment you first set foot on that stage?
I will share a quick story about the moment that I touched down in Orlando, because it's not in Atlantic City, New Jersey anymore. It was Labor Day weekend when we flew down because Miss America was the next weekend. There's like 22 children on the flight down there because we're going to Orlando, Florida. They're all going to see Mouse. There was a little girl that came up to me. We're standing in the airport waiting on all of our luggage. I had about 5 bags that I packed, like huge suitcases. I'm not even talking about like my carry-on. I mean like huge suitcases of stuff. And this little girl comes up behind me at the Orlando airport, and she's like looking up, and she's like, I have no crown, I have no sash, like nobody knows who I am. And she's like, are you Miss Alabama? My heart melted immediately. I about lost it right there. I was like, oh my gosh, And so what I do with any children that I interact with, this just came to me one day. I had 2 little girls that were asking for a picture, and I was like, I've got to give them something a little bit more than just a picture and a memory and something their mom can post on Facebook. And I was a local title holder at the time that I came up with the concept of crown magic. So I give little kids crown magic. If they're at just the right age, they're like, oh my gosh, because they look at you like you're a princess, in their minds, they're like, oh, she's a princess, And so I'm like, okay, I got to give them a little something more. I said, you know what? The crown has crown magic. And so for this little girl in the Orlando airport, I squat down and I was like, I had my crown box with me. And I said, do you want some crown magic? And she was like, oh, the crown has crown magic. I was like, yeah, girl, it does. And I can give you some if you want it. I tell them to touch the crown, and then they rub their hands together. And I'm like, rub them fast. And then like the friction creates a little bit of heat, and they can feel the magic working. And then they touch it to their heart, and they keep it forever and ever. So whenever they need a little extra kindness, bravery, courage, whatever they need, they can use their crown magic for. So to do that as Miss Alabama, going to Miss America was very special. It didn't really hit me that I was at Miss America until preliminary night 1 and the lights come on. Oh gosh, I'm here. And then it was an incredible week and one of the most enriching experiences of my life, because when you're at Miss America, it's not, at least this was my frame of mind. I knew that whatever was meant to happen was going to happen. Whatever's meant to be will be. And so I wasn't going there to win, if that makes any sense. Whenever I've competed, I have never gone to win. I've gone to do my best and let whatever the Lord's plan for that year is play out. And so I went in and I said, I'm going to make so many friends and really tap into the sisterhood of this program. And then they called my name for top 5 and I said, oh my gosh. And I was floored. And then I thought, I answered my final onstage question as a member of the top 5. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to be happy just about anywhere in this top 5 because I'm surrounded by amazing and incredible women. And I'm just happy to be here. Like, truly, that was what I felt. And then I also thought, I never have to pull a question out of a glass bowl ever again. And so I'm retired. And honestly, in that moment, I was thinking, Lord, just don't put me first runner up and I think I'll be good. I know that's awful to say, but I was like, after my track record and after my career, I was like, I can't go out like this. I cannot. My career can't end like this. So when they announced Alabama as 4th runner up, I was just like, I couldn't believe that I had made the top 5 at Miss America. It was an amazing experience.
Rewind just a little bit. What were the nerves like as, they narrow things down, top 20, top 15, whatever they narrow it down to, and you're like, holy cow, I'm still in this.
I know. And the nerves then it's just like anticipation. It's excitement. It's not like, because at that point, pressure's off. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, go have a good time. Go enjoy it. And it hit me right before we went out for opening number. And I was like, I'm never doing this ever again in my life. Like, this is it. This is the last time I get to enjoy competing. And I think that made all the difference in how I felt through that night, because I realized, like, oh wow, I want to be so present in all of these moments that I just enjoy it. Now, I say that, and I had so much adrenaline pumping, and I'd been up since 3:30 that morning that it's kind of a flash. I don't remember everything, but that's why we have video. That's why people videotape these things. And I remember thinking, Lord, if I am in this top 10, just please don't put me at the front. I know that's awful because you go in the order that you're announced. And I thought, just let me be kind of at the tail end, which I know was terrible for my people sitting in the audience because I was the second to last one called. And then it goes so fast, you don't even have time to think. You don't even have time to be nervous. You just have time to be happy and shocked and move on to the next thing.
How has that little girl from Leeds, Alabama, who just entered pageants as a 2nd grader, changed to who you are now?
I don't even know if it's changed per se. I feel like this program has been an opportunity for me it's been like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly moment. Like that's the best way to describe it, because I'm still that little girl in a sense, and I still see so many parts of her that are still in me, but I have changed and transformed because of this program. And I think if I was talking to her, I would tell her to not be scared. Don't be scared of what you think is failure, because every moment that you feel isn't perfection, every moment that you feel is a moment where you didn't accomplish a goal is just redirection. And I think what has changed from me being that younger 14-year-old version of myself to who I am now is I have learned all these lessons through this program, that rejection is redirection. and there's something greater out there for you, even if it doesn't go the way that you planned it to.
That's Emma Terry, a member of the Honors College. She earned her undergraduate and master's degrees from the Collat School of Business in 2024 and 2025. She's now carrying her story forward with the blend of determination and humility that shaped her from the start. And that definitely gives her a great idea of what it means to be a Blazer.
To me, being a Blazer, and this may sound cheesy, but I really think it means blazing your own path, if that makes any sense. And it means going forward even when the going gets tough. And during my time as a Blazer, and especially during my first 4 years at UAB through my undergrad and graduate studies, I was facing a lot of things. I was going through being a caregiver for my grandfather who had a terminal illness, who had ALS, and I was a full-time student. I, at one point, was working 3 jobs. I was a title holder within the Miss America organization. I was working to achieve nonprofit status for my initiative, Stomping Out ALS One Step at a Time, which is now a 501c3 nonprofit. But I was doing all of these things, and there were so many moments where, I felt like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to do next. There's so much that I feel like I have to do. But that was what I learned during my time as a Blazer. I learned how to blaze my own path and how to keep going forward even when it felt like there was so much going on that I couldn't. So I love UAB, and I'm a very, very proud Blazer.
That's another episode of UAB Green and Told in the books. Catch up on past episodes at alumni.uab.edu/greenandtold on Spotify or the Apple Podcast app. If you have a guest idea, send it our way at greenandtold@uab.edu. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram to stay connected with all things UAB alumni. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Blazers.